Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com, and we're now a few days into NFL free agency. A lot of big names have come off the board. One of them has signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. Not very many others have. And if you guys remember, I had an infamous video last year that was titled Grading the Kansas City Chiefs Free Agency So Far. And it was about this same time last year, and I gave Brett Veach a rather poor grade because I thought that the Chiefs really weren't doing all that much to improve the roster. They had signed Joe Tooney. Okay, good. They signed Kyle Long. He ended up being nothing. And they cleared out a bunch of cap space and didn't really know what to do with it, it seemed like. They ended up making a few small signings here and there later on, but I thought they could have done better in free agency. That's all last year, though. I want to talk about this year, and I want to give Brett Veach a letter grade so far for what he's done. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you guys my grade for Brett Veach so far in free agency, and why I gave him that grade, and what he can do to improve it. My grade for Brett Veach this time around isn't going to be as harsh as it was last year, just because I'm willing to see what else he does, and I still think the Chiefs have the ability to make some moves to salvage free agency and really shore up the depth on the roster. But the grade I'm going to give him isn't going to be too generous either. I'm giving Brett Veach a C- for what he's done so far. If you guys saw my video from Monday, I loved the Justin Reed signing. It was a great deal, great money for a really good player. I loved it. He replaces Tyrann Mathieu. However, he's the only move you've made so far. He's the only external move you've made so far. They brought back other guys who played last year, like Andrew Wiley, Michael Burton. But that's not making your team any better because they played last year. You're just bringing guys back from last year. We're looking more at the external moves, and so far the only one that the Chiefs have made is the Justin Reed signing. And they have cap space to work with, and they have avenues to create cap space. They also created cap space by restructuring Frank Clark. And so far, Justin Reed's the only move they've made. And it doesn't really necessarily make them better because he's coming in to replace Tyrann Mathieu. So replacing Tyrann Mathieu doesn't necessarily make you better. And so far, I'm looking at what these other AFC West teams have done, or really just other AFC teams in general, and they are lapping the Chiefs in free agency, totally boat racing them. Brett Veach specifically said before the offseason that the focus was going to be on the defense and rebuilding the defensive line. And he has failed at that so far. All the top free agents are off the board. And they restructured Frank Clark to have this money. So where is this money going? Because all the top free agents are gone. Von Miller, he's on the Bills. The Bills just got better. Chandler Jones, he's on the Raiders. The Raiders got better. I'm sorry, drew a blank. Khalil Mack, he's on the Chargers now. The Broncos have Randy Gregory. These other teams are absolutely loading up on you. And the Chiefs' answer, when they knew they had to rebuild their defensive line, restructure Frank Clark and bring Frank Clark back. And if you guys know my feelings on Frank Clark, not too thrilled with that. Are we sure that when Brett Veach didn't say he was going to fix the defensive line, that he didn't mean for the rest of the AFC West and not the Chiefs? And look, I can understand that the Chiefs didn't want to be swimming in the pool that some of these other teams were willing to do for some of these pass rushers. Like Chandler Jones is making $17 million a year with the Raiders. Von Miller signed a 6-year, $120 million deal with the Bills. But, the Chiefs haven't done anything while those teams are getting better. And Za'Darius Smith, he was the one that came off the board today. He signed a 4-year, $35 million deal with the Ravens. That's $8 million per year, guys. Why could the Chiefs not have done that? Or why could they have not offered a couple million more for Za'Darius Smith, who I know he's coming off a back injury and everything, but I would have done that deal in a heartbeat. I mean, you need pass rush. I mean, Brett Veach, he said his goal was to fix this defensive line and fix the defense. You've lost Charvarius Ward. You've lost Tyrann Mathieu. I guess there's a small chance he could still come back, but, I don't know. I'm not banking on that. But then, Frank Clark is the only move you've made on the defensive line, reworking his deal and bringing him back. Melvin Ingram is still a free agent. He technically has not been brought back yet. Like, what are we going to do to fix the defensive line? Because this better be a damn good plan, or else this is kind of looking like last year's free agency, where we have one real good signing like Joe Tooney. This year it's Justin Reed. You have one big signing, and then you kind of miss on some of your other targets, maybe make a few other small signings, bring some guys back, and then you hope to hit on most of your holes in the draft. And luckily for the Chiefs, they had one of the best drafts in franchise history by getting Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith in the 6th round, Noah Gray, a contributing tight end. Like, they had a really good draft. But I think it's very, very risky to continue to botch free agency while these other AFC teams are, like I said, boat racing you, and then hope to God, hope and pray that you have an A-plus draft and can play a little bit of catch-up. That's to me, that's not a winning proposition, because we saw the Chiefs do that last year. They had a lot of holes. They had weaknesses on the team that hurt them all the way up until the end of the season. For example, lack of pass rush, lack of wide receiver too. These are things that hurt them all year long. Suspect secondary as well. They had one of the worst passing defenses in the league last year. Some of that was inflated by the first part of the season, but still, it happened. And these other teams, they're closing the gap on you. We saw the Chargers. They had control of the division all the way up until like week 13 or week 14. Then they lost to the Chiefs, and then they melted down against the Texans. But the Chargers have made vast improvements. They have made some moves. They brought in Khalil Mack. They signed J.C. Jackson. Are we just going to sit back and pretend that, they're the Chargers? And I know a lot of you guys are, you want to wait and see if they can actually do anything before you believe them, but I'm taking them seriously now. Like, they have made some serious moves. They have a real quarterback. They have a young, bright-minded head coach. Like, they need to be taken seriously. Same thing with the Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson. There are no longer 2 free wins every year. And when you let other teams do this and you're not making the proper moves to respond, you lose ground. And now I'm not so sure the Chiefs win the AFC. Right now the Bills, after signing Von Miller, are the odds-on favorite to win the AFC, and I can't really blame people for placing their bets on the Bills, because they were a really good team who, if we're being honest, really should have beaten the Chiefs in that game. They really were 13 seconds away. Thank God we have Patrick Mahomes, but I do not like this unsustainable brand of football that the Chiefs are continuing to play, where we kind of don't do a great job with roster construction, and then we hope for Patrick Mahomes to bail us out every single time. Like in that Bengals game, Mahomes played a historically good first half, kind of broke down in the second half, but it led to the Chiefs losing, and it's like, well, you have to find ways to win outside of Patrick Mahomes. Like, it can't be Patrick Mahomes being your Lord and Savior every single game. It was that way with the Bills too. Without Patrick Mahomes just going complete God mode, they barely won that game, and that it's just not sustainable football. You need to find ways to win outside of Patrick Mahomes. We don't need to we shouldn't have to score 40 plus points every single game. We should be building up this defense too, to try and stop some of these other teams that are now loading up. And what have we done to fix up this defense? You're right now, unless the Chiefs make some signings, and I'm sure they will. Like, there's guys out there, like, I like Derek Barnett at this point. As a defensive end to bring in. Kaiser White, the Chargers linebacker, as your third linebacker. I would like moves like that to try and shore up our depth. But even if you do that, you're planning on going into the draft with a lot of holes. Like, you are hoping that you nail pick 30 and find a good pass rusher, because the Chiefs have by far the worst pass rush in the AFC West. And the Bills also have a better pass rush. The Bengals have a better pass rush. Like, it's embarrassing what the Chiefs have compared to their AFC West counterparts. And I already know what some of you are going to say. You're going to say, oh, Josh, how dare you question this front office that's gotten us to 4 straight AFC championship games and gotten us a Super Bowl? I'm sorry, but can we please stop using the Chiefs Super Bowl win from 3 years ago to deflect from anything that the Chiefs front office does wrong? Like, I'm sorry, I that doesn't absolve them of not having a good free agency or making a bad draft pick or a bad signing because they won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. And yeah, they have had a really good run of success, and 4 straight AFC Championship games is really hard to do. But they have won Super Bowl out of that 4 AFC Championship game trips, and by definition, the Chiefs are declining. Since winning that Super Bowl in 2019, they have lost a Super Bowl, and they failed to appear this year. By definition, they're declining, and the gap between them and the other teams in the conference is getting smaller, and the margin for error is getting thinner. Even when the Chiefs won that Super Bowl in 2019, it was unsustainable football. Historic comebacks against the Texans, a comeback against the Titans, a historic fourth quarter comeback against the 49ers. And that's unsustainable football. But the Chiefs were able to do it back then because they were so ahead of their time. Could the Chiefs still have a really good draft? Sure, but I think banking on a bunch of rookies to fill gaping holes on your roster, it's risky. It's not a winning proposition. And we have to remember, other teams get a draft too, so they could easily offset what you do in their draft, even if you have a good draft, because they've also lapped you in free agency. And I know some of these other teams, they have a rookie quarterback on, their rookie deal, or they have more money to spend, kind of like the Chiefs did a few years ago. But it's not like the Chiefs don't have money to spend. It's not like they don't have cap space. They do. They were in on these guys. There were reports that they were interested in a lot of these guys. It was reported they were in heavy on Za'Darius Smith, and they're willing to spend money. That's why you heard about them linked to all these names. They have money. Just for whatever reason, they're failing to close. I don't know. And you can't force players to sign with you either. I understand that, but there also needs to be a backup plan, and I'm going to be really interested to see what Veach's backup plans are, because I think last year's weren't all that great. I think he really neglected the pass rush when it was clear they needed more. He signed Jaron Reed, but that clearly wasn't enough. At this point, with some of the top guys gone, I would look at Melvin Ingram, bringing him back, maybe a Derek Barnett. Also, it sounds like the Vikings are wanting to trade Danielle Hunter. I would definitely look into that. I know he's a super high cap hit for this year, but if the Chiefs could maybe give them a 3rd-round pick and see if they take on some of his cap hit this year, or see if he can restructure, I would definitely love to see Danielle Hunter, because you got to do something now. You've got to do something to improve this pass rush, because you are not getting any sort of pass rush that's on par with pick 30 in this upcoming draft. Like, you still need more. There's got to be a move up Brett Veach's sleeve. If not, then I think that's wrong. I think he would have failed if that's the case. So that's kind of my thoughts on free agency so far. The Chiefs can still get in on the wide receiver market, and I would love if they did that, and I would love if they made some of those smaller moves. Allen Robinson is still out there. They were reportedly interested in him. Juju Smith-Schuster as well. If they can still do one of those and knock out wide receiver 2 as a need before the draft, that would be great, even though they might even still draft a receiver if they sign one of these guys. I don't know. We'll have to see. That's my grade for Brett Veach's free agency so far, though. I think a lot of guys flew off the board today that would have looked really nice for the Chiefs. So I don't know. I would love to hear from you guys, though. Do you agree, disagree with anything I said? Are you happy with what Brett Veach has done in free agency so far? Are you getting concerned? Let me know. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com. I will see you all in the next one.